Hello, it's Jeff Shaw here on Radio FM88 Australia. Julia's just coming in the green room. She'll be ready for us. And it's just gone past 7 o'clock in Queensland, 9 o'clock just gone past in New Zealand, and of course 3 minutes past 10 on Thursday morning in our UK listeners. And our special guest tonight is a local boy. The name's all written up there, Timothy Brown. I call him Australia's version of Billy Elliot. And I tell you, I've been talking to Timmy, and I've got to tell you, fascinated. I'm fascinated with the role and purpose that a young boy coming through the ranks, just like Billy Elliot in Yorkshire, in a town where you're ridiculed, you're bullied. There's a heap of bloody stuff. And then from a fellow like me who's played rugby league, soccer, as well as surf lifesaving, the stuff in Australia you're expected to do. And then you come across a guy like Timothy Brown. You don't realise just what they have to put up with, not only emotionally, physically, and mentally, but the amount of fitness and the food regime, the body types, skin fats, the sheer capabilities. I mean, that pound for pound, they're like an ant that can lift above the weight. Forget those girls above their shoulders and raise them up. And I tell you, I had a newfound respect just by having a chat with Timothy this afternoon. And I really think that anyone who's watching and listening to the show now or later on would be suitably impressed as I am. And Timothy, mate, it's thank you for coming on, and thank you for starting your journey and explaining what's it like to be in a pool of really talented, creative people. Amazing. Tell us.
Yeah. No, thank you, Jeff. It definitely has been an incredible journey, and often I have to kind of pinch myself and think, I've had such a lucky upbringing and incredible life experience that sometimes I just take it for granted. But when I say lucky, it's because I've been able to really pursue what I wanted to pursue from a young boy, and that was to dance. And believe me, when I was young, when I was 8 years old, when I decided that I wanted to dance professionally, many people said to me, that's not possible. That's not the way you can go. I just seem to be able to journey on and really experience some amazing adventures. So really happy to share anything tonight about that. Would you like me to go back a little bit into my beginnings?
I'll just, you're supposed to tell a short story, beginning, middle, and end, but sometimes you can start off in the middle and say how you got coming to the Royal. It's not Royal. I just threw that out there, but Queensland Ballet, because that in itself is a huge achievement. That's like representing Queensland state of origin, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. You're representing your state for sure. So I had a really lucky and fortunate training background. So as a young boy, I was a country boy. I grew up in a little town called Elphinstone, which was about 15 minutes from Castlemaine in Victoria, for anyone who knows that area. And I got into a prestigious school, Victorian College of the Arts, and that's in Melbourne. And then I trained further at the Australian Ballet School. So everyone who was in the school, it's kind of like everyone from around Australia who could get in, who auditioned, and the auditions were very grueling and very intense. It was a week-long audition. We had to attend every day for a week. We had to do all the syllabus, all the classes. I remember having, a panel of 6 of these expert dance teachers and trainers, and including like the director of the Australian Ballet Company and of the school, and people, watching you and testing you. And it's funny, as a kid, you have, you know that you've got this thing going on in your head, like I want to be here and I know that I can do it, but are they going to want me? Are they going to pick me? And it was a really fun, interesting time to be doing that as a kid. So yeah, I went through the Australian Ballet School, and you get told this all the way through your training to prepare for the fact that you might not make it. And they always say that you might not make it as a dancer. And you just kind of hear it, and you just kind of you have to put it aside. You can't, if you kind of lean into this, like, oh, I might not make it, then it's just too depressing. So I got to the end of my degree at the Australian Ballet School, and it came time to find a job. And there was only 3 spots out of our class. So our class was made up of 15 students. 3 spots to go into the Australian Ballet Company, and that's all we knew. I didn't get a spot in the Australian Ballet Company, and I kind of was like, that's fine. But then the next day we had a visiting director from both the Western Australian Ballet Company and this Queensland Ballet Company, and they're the only 2 other ballet companies in Australia that perform and are professional ballet companies at the time. And I was like, okay, I've got another chance. And so the Queensland Ballet director came into our studio, and his name, the former director now, Francois Klaus, European guy, and he was really interested in dancers that could really interpret music and have a sense of play and work with him as a choreographer. So he was a director who created the works for you or on you, rather than perhaps bringing in a ballet and then you just learn off the video. And so I remember him just saying, just show me what you got. Just dance. I'm going to put some music on and you just dance. And lucky for me, I was a bit of an improv kind of guy, so I just went for it and got the job. So that was really great that I got my start in Queensland. And I flew to Queensland not really knowing much about it. I had a friend there, and it was about how old was I? I was like just turned 20. I had a friend there, and I never looked back, and I've been here ever since. So yeah, that was my beginnings.
So what age were you when you joined our illustrious Queensland Ballet?
Yeah.
How old were you? Yeah.
Oh, how old was I? So I joined when I was just turned 21. Auditioned when I was 20. Just turned 21. That's normal for a dancer to start professionally at that kind of age, and that really gives scope that the dance career is somewhat limited. I'm 40 now. I danced professionally with the company for 8 years, and there was so much. You literally lived in a excuse me, in a bubble of a beautiful world where we performed night after night and literally toured the world with the works that we learnt. So yeah, it was really, really cool.
So let's make that comparison, like I said at the beginning there, between a footballer and their regime in the gym and their having a food nutritionist. What's your regime? Monday to Friday before you perform Friday night or Saturday or do a Sunday matinee? What's your 5-day preliminary stuff? What do you do?
Everyone has their own ritual. I say ritual because there's a bit of superstition around if I don't do this right stretch, or if I don't do this amount of, push-ups, or if I don't eat, this breakfast, then I might not be on form. So yeah, people have their own rituals. We would get into the studio at people would get in there as early as 8 o'clock and then do about an hour and a half of their own warm-up. And then we'd formally start our own class, start a company class from about 9:30, 10 o'clock, and that would go for about an hour and a half. That would be a very formally structured bar center work. Sometimes, and often it was males and females were separated. So the males, we would focus more on our jumps and allegro, working on particular movement that is more particular to male dancers. And then we would launch straight into what would be probably still in the morning, the most excuse me, virtuoso type work. So that would be any solos that we are performing. So for example, if we're doing the Sleeping Beauty, one of the big solos there is the Bluebird. And I remember really loving that particular solo. Bluebird had lots of repetitive aerial jumps like you're a bird taking flight. So you'd focus on that. And then more towards the end of the day, you would come back to more of your company big group work, whereby it was all about getting the precision of the timing, everyone working really tightly, collectively, and formation, but at the same time developing the work. So really being able to contribute to what artistically is happening in terms of the movement, the style. The style was generally very much dictated by the director because he had very, strong ideas, and that was great. But whatever you could give in terms of suggestions for movements, and often it came to your individual thing. So if you had something special, a movement or something that you wanted to put forward, you would, and that would become a part of the creation and part of the creative process as well that day.
Because the director, he's looking at it as if he's looking down the lens of a camera, and that lens of the camera is the audience. I'd say he's taking the perception of a member of the audience who's watching the whole stage presence, isn't it? Because you've got all these different movements coming forth, and you're trying to scapulate and bring it together. It's almost like it's got to have, like Fibonacci, it's got to have all that shape and form, like composing a picture, and then all of a sudden, you got different movements taking place, and then the music. I tell you, like there's something to it, eh? I mean, that's a lot of bloody mind and emotional coming together, isn't it?
It really is. You really have to stay connected to everybody in the room, and be able to collaborate and work with people. And when you're working with your body, and when you're working with, as you said, like the emotional side, like portraying a character, people are vulnerable, and people are pushing themselves to their limits on some days, or the director's trying to find something in you that you don't necessarily know that you've got. So there is a definite trust and connectivity that you build with your colleagues in the room. And as you said, the director will often have more knowledge around where we're going or what's happening with the ballet than you do. So you really have to trust that they know what's going on. So they might know what the set behind you is, that hasn't been created yet in the workshop. But there is a lot of trust happening in that process. Yeah.
Hey, with Queensland Ballet, they're obviously getting funding from the Queensland government through the God Lotto casket people, but you get corporate funds as well. So now that you're retired and you've become an artistic director, I mean, have you got your hand up into the Queensland government Lotto funds, or how do you guys fund your operation?
Sure. Queensland Ballet has had to make a big shift, like a lot of organisations and companies, whereby we rely much less on government funding and much more on it really does come down to your support networks in terms of a lot of philanthropic, so a lot of people who will put money forward for projects or for court, say you're doing a tour to, say we're doing a tour to London, someone might say, oh, look, I'll help sponsor the company to that place. So funding has to be really diversified now. For me, I worked as an artistic director for Ballet Theatre of Queensland for 6 years. I've recently stepped off that position as well to move into another area, which I can talk about in a bit. But that was all privately funded. So we have people. There was a youth ballet, so the families would put in, and then we'd have other sponsors to make that happen. So yeah, funding, the diversity is better, because we, unfortunately, in Australia, the arts isn't hugely funded. but that's probably a global thing too. I'm feeling.
At the moment there, West End have shut down a lot of the big shows, including Phantom of the Opera. Big decades of running its social distancing is make it unlikely viable for them to have patrons, spread out X number of meters from each other. So, what are you actually doing in that respect? I mean, are you doing things on Zoom, or are you putting stuff up on other social media sites as a way?
Yeah, well, I'm remembering, Julia, our Zoom classes. They were great. It was we all had to move together into this new world of how we were going to stay connected with our bodies and our mind during the pandemic, and it's still happening. And today I was filling out risk assessments around what could be another. People are worried, what could be for us, as we move through this pandemic. But we did go on Zoom. So now I'm referring to the company I work for called Access Arts, and I facilitate and manage their arts program. Access Arts is a organisation that supports artists with disability. So I work with people who are often vulnerable or often, marginalised, or often find it difficult to, be seen or heard in this world. So it's about providing those guys and providing people with disability with opportunities to do their thing and be proud artists that they are. So yeah, we moved to Zoom. We did a whole term on Zoom. It was really challenging. And we've just come back into the studio, and it's. I really hope that we can stay there. Yeah.
There's nothing like being in a studio together.
There's nothing like it. The whole energy shifts. it feels, you feel the space, your body in the space. You feel your relationship to others in the space, and it enables the mind, I think, to have more understanding and awareness about your own body in relation to other people's bodies, and and work as a collective, energetically. But yeah,
is Access Arts the one at Yeronga or the one in Fortitude Valley?
So yeah, we have a studio in Yeronga. That's our visual arts studio where people go in and do all their, oil paintings or collages and all that visual arts goodness. And then in Ash Grove, we run our performing arts where we have our drama, dance, singing. We have a drumming circle. So all that good stuff as well.
Drumming circle. You're on to. Hey, so what's the one in the valley then? Oh, is it in the valley?
No, at the moment, because we've had to shift around a little bit due to funding. There's always a little bit of swaying and there. We did have some offices.
Because I've got this one for you. It's the Zoom top over for term 3.
That's us.
Yeah.
That's us. Oh, that's So term 3 Zoom timetable. So we do have Zoom for the visual artists because they find they can work still quite effectively on the Zoom platform. But when we spoke to our performing artists, they really did yearn to come back into the studio. So we've got, our visual arts. Those are the few headings in yellow at the top for visual arts. And if you keep scrolling down, it might come into the performing arts.
Just those 3.
I think you're in the visual arts tab. So they're the 3 of our workshops at Yeronga.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Yeah, that's all good.
Performing arts, yeah?
Performing arts, yeah.
Cool. Let's get into that. It means anyone who's listening overseas or here in Australia, they can actually come online, isn't it?
Yeah, come online. That's a great thing about Zoom, is that it does give people opportunity who are perhaps find it difficult to come in, or it be transport if they live remotely. So there's the rhythm circle. You can see that just in the middle of the screen. Now that's the drumming circle that we have. And that is
Bowls Club here in Brisbane, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Tuesdays, 12 o'clock to 2:30 during the day.
Yeah, so that's a real fun time. So we're back in the studio. It just feels really good to be able to see each other face to face. So fingers crossed it stays like that. Is that my phone coming through?
No, it's someone from the UK hitting me up. I just had to tell them I'm on the radio. Oh, good. Carry on. Okay.
Oh, all good?
Well, she's a clairvoyant psychic. She should have known we were on the radio. Hey, listen. Okay, so Julie's come back up on. We've got 2 spots. Oh, she. Let's see what's happening
here.
You got.
We're talking to her twin now. Hey, pregnant pause. Hey, listen. You actually put me onto a YouTube site. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think resonates really well, and it talks about really the show itself. You know, you do all this preliminary work for years and years and years, and then you get on the stage. And how long does this show would actually go for? Like an hour and a half or what?
Yeah. So depending on the work, contemporary ballets generally can be a bit shorter, and they're often shown in what we call a triple bill, so three works in one evening. And then the classical ballets, so your Swan Lakes, your Sleeping Beauties, those Romeo and Juliets, they're often shown in 2 or 3 acts. So you'll see about maybe an hour, and then they'll have a break, and then you'll come back and you'll have another hour. So yeah, they're a bit longer.
How long are you actually on the stage? How long are you performing?
Typically for a performance, the curtain would go up at around, I'm going to say 7:30, 7 o'clock. And then the curtain might not come down till about 10 sometimes. So you really got to keep your energy up.
Are you on the stage for the whole duration, or are you like those American footballers who are in specialist teams and they get run on, then you do your thing, then you run back off, and then another one runs on?
Yes. Yeah, more like that. If you have a big role to play, say, for example, I'm trying to think of a really good one where the lead dancer is on a lot. Let's say Juliet out of Romeo and Juliet. You've got to really build up your stamina, or if you're playing Romeo, you've really got to build your stamina to be able to portray that role for the full length of the evening. But cleverly, the choreographers create enough space for you to really go for it, and then be able to slow down the pace and take your breath and yeah.
So if you run off,
This is where, as Juliet, I have to ask, and that role Romeo, and you get the group and then the duets and then the solos, and typically as a man, I think you have even more work because you got to lift up the woman each time, right?
You do.
Sort of like,
you do.
Do you ever do it and you kind of go, oh damn, my spine, I'm full of muscle.
Yeah. Oh well, I remember a story. Well, we're trained to. I'll give you a bit of a technique class. So when we're lifting the girl from behind, so bracing their back, we're told to really bring our wrists together and just really kind of push straight up. So it's kind of like and she'll prep. So we'll both bend, and then she'll jump, and then it's like a straight push up over the head, and that could be other ways. So another way is that we support her hip and then her leg, and we've got to have it in the right spot, because if it's wonky, she'll be wonky. So again, it's like a bend and a press, and that's called a press lift when we take them over our heads. I did one in A Midsummer Night's Dream, which was probably the scariest one that I ever did, and that was called a sit press, and she's balancing sitting on your palm, and you have to press her still over your head. So she's sitting on your palm above. And the trick is that you can hold the bottom of her foot as a little, and she'll kind of push off that hand as a bit of a lever. But then after a moment, you free that hand and she's just balancing up there. So that was in a procession in Midsummer Night's Dream, when I had to press her at the top of the stage and then walk her with her over my head and diagonally down the stage. That was scary.
Hey, how tall are you then? How tall are you?
I'm just under 6 foot, so 5 something. 5'11".
So about
5'11". Yeah.
Hey, so what weight were you throughout the whole career with the Queensland Ballet? We pretty much stayed a very consistent weight.
I can't. And I think that's why I'm pretty much the same as I am now, even all these years later, because it's funnily enough, it's actually written into our contracts that we can't change our weight and size, and which is.
So if you were, say, 80 kilos, you're actually bench pressing and pushing the scale up. These girls, I mean, what's their body shape? I mean, they 5'5". Size 10.
Yeah, they're all very athletic. They all are, but they, as a lot of dancers will range in size, and so when it comes to pas de deux, which is the French term for partnering together, we'll work with a matched size partner often. So I was fairly, in the middle. So I had a pretty
easy to match, not hard to match.
Exactly, I was pretty easy to match.
So you're saying that the girl has to be the same height and same body shape? Is that what you're saying, or you're looking at a girl who's a bit lower in size so that you could easily push her up? I mean, I'm just it's fascinating. Your body, I mean, you're doing push-ups and all these other attributes to get your rather than doing the big heavy weights, eh? Would that be right?
Yeah, so a lot of the work that the dancers will do is more around, I guess, because we have to spend a lot of time physically working. So you can't spend too much of your time training outside of that. So a lot of it is free body weight or working, resisting with your own body, and then of course I loved going to the gym and doing mostly free weights and things like that, and Pilates is a big one for dancers. I never personally liked Pilates. I'm probably going to be shunned by the dance community by saying that, but I like more full body holistic ways of working, as opposed to thinking about sort of micro-managing the muscle groups, or micro-working them. And I think, Julia, that's why I like Qigong too, because when we're moving, we're really thinking about the whole body. We might think about a bit about like the way the head turns or looking to the hands, but you've still got an image of the whole body in mind, especially when you're talking about being a monkey or a tiger or something.
Or the monkey looking out for the tiger.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, what was your favorite and what was your least favorite role during your career?
Okay. So I really I'm going to come back to Midsummer Night's Dream. I got to play the role of a fairy prince, which was, I think, some sort of made up role where I got to be, quite glamorous and princely. But also in the other scenes, Lysander, which was one of the lovers that gets played off each other. Shakespeare was really clever in creating all this confusion. So I was one of the lovers that Puck puts a spell on, and when you wake up, the first person that you see, you fall in love with. And I believe I woke up and fell in love with somebody, a girl who was already in love with the other guy, and then so there's all this confusion, and it's a really fun ballet. So that was fun, Lysander. And then I really enjoyed just contemporary works whereby we didn't have to comply to a character. We could literally just express the music through our bodies, and work okay, so we did this wonderful piece to live Japanese drumming.
Oh yeah, wow.
Kudo drummers, I think they were there. Kudo, and we had them live on stage in the back.
You just hang on, your speaker, your microphone's just getting caught in your hand and moving it. So
I'll keep it a little bit away.
Yeah,
so the drumming was there, and we had to really synchronize ourselves with the drumming movements, pulsating and moving together as a unified group, and that to me too was really, really powerful. So, no story, no characters. We're just continually coming out and moving as bodies in space. And another one that's similar to that, which I really enjoyed, was The Rite of Spring. And at first, I don't know if you guys have listened to Tchaikovsky's score of The Rite of Spring, but it is quite difficult to listen to at first because it's and the history of Tchaikovsky, Stravinsky, I'm getting that wrong. It's Stravinsky's Rite of Spring. It was so controversial at the time when he composed it back in early 19th century, and at first it's like, oh, what is this music? But the complexity and the emotional raw power behind the music is quite sublime. And that's the beauty of the fact that we got to perform to incredible music, and often it was played live in the orchestra pit or up on stage with us. Yeah,
I think that production, The Rites of Spring, I remember hearing reviews about it. You guys did, your teams did great jobs. Everybody was really impressed. And the drumming one, it actually reminds me of a creation myth that the Hopi Indians have, and they said sort of the first beings had to go to the South Pole with their drum and play the drum, and as they played the drum in harmony with the earth's beat, all this energy started to flow through them into the earth, and then sort of these light streams came out, which then became like the spots on a phone, and the energy basis. So yeah, there's something really special about the drumming. I think the Indians use it a lot in their music as well, for the heartbeat. What about Aboriginal music? Have you had the opportunity to work with Indigenous dancers and learn some of the dance and incorporate that into your work?
Yes, yeah, we had a particular work. It was a really beautiful. We had Indigenous artist come and work with us for a particular piece that was performed. I think it would have been maybe as a part of Brisbane Festival, or it was a few years back now. William Barton was the didgeridoo artist. William's very prolific, and he gets lots of gigs, and he's just incredible. And he played the score live. So we had William playing the didge, and then we had an artist, and if I'm trying to if I can remember her name, it'll come back to me. It was either Gail Marbo who it could have been possibly Gail Marbo or one of her colleagues, and it was really interesting because we are able to be gifted this music, gifted this movement especially, but it had to be very specific in the sense that it was that we were granted the ability to perform it, and that was I think quite special and quite sacred. So I remember a passage of movement that we explored and we were taught, and there was the feet moving quite kind of like a gentle stomping into the earth, but coming forward. So it's like a progressional movement forward with the stomping, and I think the arms were just quite relaxed by the side, but then moved up gradually, and it came with a visual component. So as we were moving, our feet kind of, stomping forward and our arms slowly rising, we were told to imagine the sun rising. So a visual component was that change of darkness into a cracking of light of dawn, and then into what color was it, and then into like maybe it was a beautiful hue of pink, and then the sun slowly rising and coming into the vision. And I just thought that was such a beautiful way to learn some movement that was gifted to us to perform. Yeah.
Yeah, that must have
So,
been.
can I interrupt there and say we've got 5 minutes of pure bliss of Timothy Brown's choreography.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yeah, play it.
Sums it up. So,
so this is the work that I created for.
you can talk over it a second.
Okay. So this was my first major work for Queensland Ballet. It was called Thread, and it was based on the three fates of the Greek gods, of who decided your fate.
There's something about the violin too, isn't it?
Yeah, I chose this piece to example of my works, because they're all very different and unified. Removing next year, and we work with some more
I'll just turn it down so you can talk. I wasn't quite hearing you there.
Yeah. So after Queensland Ballet, I worked with Expressions Dance Company, and we worked much more into the floor with a much more grounded and connected way of moving. And this is a really great example, because you have to really trust and release and connect with the floor a lot more. This is one of my favorite ballets that I made, called Glitch. And it's kind of about things not working or things going wrong.
Thanks for coming on the show tonight. It's been brilliant, mate.
I'm so thankful to be here and to share this with you. It's been wonderful.
it captivates all your senses, doesn't it? You know, like when you see a guy like Marcel Marseille doing his imagery, and it's almost like an animation cartoon coming to life, and you're watching it, and the person who's in the audience is actually becoming their own interpreter, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what they say dance does. If you see yourself in other. So you watch the dancer move and you recognize something that they are experiencing within yourself.
Oh, you've used that violin track all the way through your little video clip.
Yeah, I used it as the overlay for my...
Yeah. Very
wow,
good.
thanks for sharing that. You used to show a lot of yeah, it's actually very clean lines, but very empathetic, compassion, and just allowance for the human condition. It's wonderful. So in terms of your, you know, you said you sort of started professionally, you know, you got through, you succeeded, where a lot of people failed when you were 20, and then after you were 40, you switched to teaching and directing as well, others. So as an evolution, if you sort of look back on your journey and you sort of had, I don't know, 2 suitcases that you carried with you on the journey and one that you dumped and one that you took with you, what was in the one that you dumped?
I think the one that I dumped was a lot of that self-loathing, or which you never completely dump, but that's that sense of having to compare yourself to others. I interestingly,
really strong in your industry, wouldn't it?
It is. It really is, because we get taught that way. We get taught against somebody who's next to you, you know, learning, and then you get picked for your roles that way. You know, audition after audition. You are constantly trying to prove yourself. I'm good enough. I'm still at my peak. I'm still capable. You know, so I think I was able to let go a lot of that struggle. And here, the Ballet Theatre Queensland is when I got to work with young people and mentor them through that experience that I had in terms of having to, you know, audition and be compared to others, and you know, be raw on stage when you get things wrong, or if you can't get, you know, or if you're told by the choreographer you're doing it wrong, and how do you deal with that, and how do you improve. And it was a beautiful experience, because we have a new cast every year, because we'd audition a new cast. That's Joel, my friend, and we were playing makeup. And you saw them grow, and you saw them learn, and you saw them really develop and get through a lot of those struggles about, you know, self-doubt and all that. So, yeah. But I think it's a lifelong lesson, though.
Julia?
Oh, yeah. What was in the other suitcase? The one that you kept.
I love this suitcase analogy. Yeah. So the one that I kept, and, you know, I have to keep reminding myself a little bit, is that we often move through roles. So, you know, one day we're the dancer and we're there, you know, depicting what we've been given from the choreographer or the director. And then the next minute we're offered the role of a teacher. And the next minute we're, you know, sorting out the finances of how an organization might be funded. So it's about trying to keep we are the sum of all our parts. We are the sum of all the things that we do. And even though we're given a certain role or a certain identity in life, we are still much more expansive and much more capable, and not to narrow our thinking or narrow our minds about who we are and what we're doing in that particular time in our life. Yeah, that's something that I've tried to keep.
Wow, you could be a Buddhist abbot. So, yeah, we are the sum of our parts, and we not to get too attached to certain roles that are our favorites and avoid the other ones that we don't. But not to limit ourselves in those roles either.
Yeah.
And then, Tim, I really wanted to, you know, from a Qigong perspective, I was really resonating with what you said about when you're working with the other dancers and you're learning how to sense where they are in the room as a group. That's not something that many people are aware or even know, well, that it's possible and know how to do that. Sort of, and I guess even when you're teaching and you're working with, you know, people, what trick is it that you do? Do you sort of just open your senses and sense the space around the room and the bodies, or do you sort of connect with your heart and sort of feel the wavelengths? Or what is it that you do in order to be able to keep track of where the group is and where the bodies are in relationship to you?
There is definitely time that it takes to build a trust and an awareness of the people in your group. And I think it's a lot of it's to do with the beginning rituals that you might have. And one thing that we've adopted when we work with our theatre and dance group at Access Arts is that we will start by, you know, coming together in a circle, and each of us will say how we feel out of 10 for the day, and we'll also give each other a color. So you might say, I'm feeling yellow like the sun, and just that little introduction around the circle will get you to, you know, connect and engage with each other. And then it's a slow process. It's about, okay, well then let's just start with maybe just using the arms, and we'll feel how that connects. And now we might introduce moving in the space a bit, maybe forward and back. Let's try doing a new formation, and that gradual awareness that you build, say over the, you know, the course of the warm up or the course of the beginnings of a rehearsal, it might be like about, you know, half-hour period, is when you develop this awareness of who's in the space and how we're working together. And then over time, as a dance company, that just builds and builds and builds, and you just become this kind of breathing body. And one of the corrections that we would get from our directors and choreographers, and sometimes I'd say it to my students, is like, we need to breathe together. Feel each other and breathe together, and just that connectivity becomes an ability over time.
Yeah, it's wonderful to hear you talk about that, because yes, it's moving in formation is not something that we often, you know, outside of dancers or, you know, the team players have access to, or but even, you know, we see flocks of birds moving as one, flocks of animals and flocks of fish doing it, and humans do have that skill. There's a technical word for it, where you move in sync with a whole group. And I think at times like this, especially when we have so much conflict and polarization, any activity that we do as a collective that brings us back in sync with each other should be like held up and encouraged 3 times as a way of, creating
unison.
a glue that bonds us again.
Unison is the term we use in dance when we're moving together. Unison, yeah. And that reminds me of terms like solidarity, camaraderie, equality, a lot of those things that are quite evident now in our society about how we can move forward. So maybe we should all learn a choreography together, learn a ballet together.
Hey,
Jeff, what role would you like to play?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a hacker, mate.
You want to be the Mountain King or like the...
Yeah, or like the evil character.
What role could you see Jeff in?
I could see Jeff as a really good kind of like the evil character that comes out, like in maybe in Rothbard in Swan Lake, where he's got the big cloak and he's got possession of the swan and he can move her around, and she's like, oh no, but I have to break free of the spell. Maybe Jeff could you play an evil character, Jeff?
Mr. Anderson, I presume.
Yeah.
I haven't got the bass profundo voice. I mean, if I got bass profundo, it's nice. How much money do you want?
The Matrix of Ballet would be excellent. I think someone should do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey,
maybe I'll do that.
The Black Swan, wasn't it? Was it the movie Black Swan?
Yeah.
That was an awesome movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was great because that was like a ballet, a dance film, but also a psychological thriller. So we got to see a little bit of the complexity of the dark side of humanity and the Black Swan and yeah, that was really fun.
Natalie, was it Natalie? Wasn't it the girl?
Yeah.
Was that one?
Natalie Portman.
Yeah,
she's quite amazing as an actress. Yeah.
Movie Black Swan. So I mean, it takes me into this. You mentioned it before, the psychological aspects. Actors and actresses usually get the name a drama queen and all that stuff, but when you start looking at life and you start playing on the big stage of life itself, and you have all these aspects and attributes, you go through all that characterization of life itself, and then all of a sudden you now put on the stage and you're going to script, and then all of a sudden you've got to go and play that particular role. Your life journey up until that point has also given you the emotional charge that brings that essence and that energy into your body, and so when you perform it, you've actually felt it, you've been there, you just know what it's all about, and it just comes out. And you can see singers who profess to have gone through a dark time of their life, and then they sing with such conviction. You can feel it. So, is that what you're looking for when you're having someone who's coming out to dance? Who've been those little drama queens who've, you've had to tap on the shoulder and say, get your big girl pants on now. You have to grow up.
Absolutely. And I think that comes with a sense of maturity on stage. And I think, and some people have it very naturally. So you'll see a natural dancer that will come out and they'll be able to embody a maturity or an emotional maturity that's perhaps even beyond what they've experienced themselves. And that's quite profound. You're like, well, how are you portraying this character when you haven't yourself even walked that path that the character is playing, but they somehow tap into that energy or tap into that energetic vulnerability or they can portray that drama, and that's often an incredible skill that actors and dancers have. But yeah, I definitely think that it's about leaving your ego a little bit in the wings and coming out and trying to channel something a bit greater than yourself, in a way. If that doesn't sound too
No, I understand, because there's a fantastic heart and soul. It's where four people who have died, but they haven't been collected and taken over to the other side, and then finally the green bus turns up to pick them up, and they haven't been told what they've got to do, which is complete their human existence by just making sure everything's sorted before they can then transition. And it's been decades before, the bus driver is sent to come pick them up. And Downey Jr. Has this insightful ability to buddy see and see these departed souls. And so he then becomes the vessel for these four humans of in temporary transition to come through and pass on their messages to the loved ones. And one of them is the guy who always wanted to sing, but was chicken scared to sing. And in the end, Robert Downey Jr. gets onto this big stage there, and his girlfriend's in the stage and the audience and all that stuff, and she wants to know where he is. The next second he's on the stage, and this guy slips in and starts singing, Star Spangled Banner, and he's got a baritone voice, and it's just awesome presence there, and everybody wants to know how Robert Downey Jr. can actually sing, because they've never heard him sing before, but the tone and the richness. And then Big Bopper comes in and starts playing the national anthem in conjunction with this opera guy who's singing in his baritone voice. Absolutely spellbound. And I can understand when you said if they can get into that presence and they just sort of channel, people sense it. People they know, eh?
They do. It's this really cool ability to tap into your potential. And it's an extraordinary place to be able to do that. And that's why a lot of people really have those goals. Like a lot of people will say, I really want to be able to be better at public speaking, or I really want to be able to stand up in front of my group of friends and overcome something, perhaps overcome a fear or shyness, in order to really step into themselves and show who they are and experience that incredible potential that I think we all have, but we just have to find it and give it a go. Yeah.
Well done for you, Tim, for helping people do that. I do remember that usually when you ask kids in, when they're toddlers or when they're in preschool, kindy, whether they can like to sing or dance, whether they can sing and dance, everyone will go, yes, and they'll do it. Yeah. They've noticed that by the time that they're in grade 3, you only get like 7, you already lose about 35% of the kids that think that they can sing and dance, and by the time they're in high school, you'll find that it's only 30% that actually think they can sing and dance. But as you say, it's that expression, expression of our bodies and our voice and our feelings, and that free expression that really, you're doing a wonderful thing, just encouraging people to unpack that and give it freedom of expression.
Yeah. It definitely has to be nurtured, and I think I was very lucky that it was nurtured for me and my family, and that I was in an environment from a young age that it could be nurtured and fostered. So I love it when kids can move past that stage of being too embarrassed to do things in front of their peers, or be a bit different or be a bit unique, or whether it's a sport, whether they've got the courage to get out there and take the goal or whatever it is. So it's pretty cool when you can help encourage young people to get through those stages.
So Jeff was telling me that when he was growing up, if boys danced, they got in trouble.
Human conditioning.
Come on.
But hopefully that's changed now.
But you can haka, mate. You can do the haka because that's manly, you know. But,
well, I mean, the haka is incredible. I've got I went to New Zealand recently and saw a performance of from the Maori people, and it's so powerful. Yeah, but it's funny. I think it comes back to being able to identify with, you know, your heroes and with people or you know, people of your culture or your family. And yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Billy Elliot, because apparently when Billy Elliot came out as a movie, there was definitely a spike in the number of boys that would enroll in dancing. And so I had a dance school teacher say to me the other not too long ago, she's like, we need Billy Elliot 2 to come out so that we can have more boys in the class. I was like, okay. Yeah.
Well, I think the Australian ballet dancers doing the you know, when they did the white swans, and they came out with the pictures of them in the costumes, and it actually looked really good. I think that's where they broke some of the stereotype as well there.
Yeah. There was Matthew Bourne's Swan Lake. So he did an all-male. Is that the one you're talking about? The all-male Swan Lake?
Yep.
Yeah, by Matthew Bourne. That was incredible. I think you can find that somewhere on the internet. But yeah, and that was featured at the end of Billy Elliot. So he got to play the role of the male swan at the end of his at the end of the story. Yeah, male dancing is incredible, and I think it's often somehow downplayed or misplaced, the power of a male dancer and what energy that they can bring. You know, archetypally, it's very expressive and often, you know, very powerful, conjures up a lot of emotion or you know, leadership or and then of it, you know, and then it gives the male a sense of compassion and vulnerability, which is often lost, you know, in society for men. So yeah, and culturally, if you look across, you know, a lot of the different dance, the male dancer has a huge role to play. So I think we have to keep being inspired by that.
Oh, absolutely. I think, you know, certainly in non-Western cultures, you know, it doesn't matter whether it's India or China or Mongolia or Native American Indian, you know, the dance plays an incredibly important role in terms of the expression of what's going on for the collective when they're mediating with the elements and spirits and the archetypes. A lot of it is actually channeling the archetypes, isn't it? Calling them in. And, you know, this is pre video and internet, but, you know, they would actually then have to play that role, dance, you know, the harvest or the monster that frightens away the other monster, so that it then became part of the story of the tribe, that's what had happened. You know, it had to be really convincing and it had to be real. And they had to just become that. So, and I think that goes to, you know, I think we don't really appreciate the magic that our bodies and minds and emotions can do when they're unified. And dance is, though, one of the areas where you can actually sort of experience that, watching other people doing that. Okay.
Yeah, expressing and storytelling, I think, is a huge part of it.
Yeah. So, Jeff, have we got any comments? Every time I start looking at comments, I get bounced out. Have we got any questions for Tim from the audience?
No, it's just no, it's just been your mate Elizabeth said hello, and Chris Gow when we played Timothy's choreography in such perfection.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
So if people want to, if adults or if people want to enroll their kids, or if adults want to have a chance to dance with you or learn from you, Tim, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best point of contact?
Sure. Well, I'm currently working, as I said, at Access Arts. So that's for artists with disability. So if you know anyone with disability or would like an opportunity to reach out and contact us, I'm there. That's tim.brown@accessarts.org.au. Otherwise, my Facebook page, Timothy Brown Choreography, is there. I do another part of what I've done in the past is I've also done burlesque performance, and you can follow me on Instagram, which is my burlesque name, Timothy Turquoise. And that's a whole nother facet of the mirror in terms of dressing up more in like feathers and all that sort of stuff, which is fantastical. Instagram, Timothy Turquoise, my Facebook page, Timothy Brown Choreography, and then you can contact me through Access Arts.
Great, wonderful, Tim. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's actually the first chance I've had to talk to a professional dancer and find out, what it's like. So thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Jeff. It's been awesome. I feel like and it's really cool because I feel like we talked about so much different things and not necessarily in like a standard linear way. It was a very fun dance that we did tonight.
Well, Julia, you might have a role to play.
Yeah.
And thank you to our audience for listening as well. And maybe we can see Jeff on the dance floor one day. Actually, yeah, we might. We might not.
Shut up.
Who knows? Maybe he's been inspired by Tim.
For public.
Watch this space. All right, we're going to sign out now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye. Thanks for listening. It's been Radio FM88 Australia. We're just going to break now from our live Facebook feeds, and then we'll come back to the radio station, and then we'll go back to normal programming, and then our good friends will be in the green room having a little chinwag afterwards. Thank you. And thank you for listening, and thank you for watching. It's been fantastic.